Alright everybody, the next topic in our civil rights unit is Martin Luther King Jr. Our learning outcomes, you should be able to describe Martin Luther King's brand of nonviolent resistance and its influences, and secondly, understand the reasons for Martin Luther King being in Memphis at the time of his murder. So a little review on MLK. He has a PhD in theology from Boston University. He's an ordained minister, president of the SCLC, Montgomery bus boycott, played an instrumental role in that. His influences, Thoreau, Jesus, of course, A. Philip Randolph, and, of course, Gandhi with his nonviolent resistance, and preaching considerable nonviolent resistance and dealing with whatever consequences will come their way. Soul Force is MLK's brand of nonviolent resistance. It's called passive resistance, which means there's no fighting back, turning the other cheek, if you want to call it that. The process is to expose the injustice and hold America accountable for what's happening. Repeatedly, you keep seeing images of police dogs being turned on children. You have fire hoses being turned on people. You have those images from the Woolworth lunch counters with the milkshakes being poured on people's heads. The goal here is not good v. evil. It is justice and togetherness. And the simple fact is, once everyone is accepted, things change. The resistance ends. A couple examples of this type of Soul Force, his nonviolent resistance, is boycotts, marches, speeches, sit-ins, hunger strikes. We'll talk about Cesar Chavez in a little bit. He was made famous for a hunger strike. Registering people to vote. That is going to be one of the biggest movements in the civil rights movement itself, is getting people out there to let their voices be heard with the ballot. And peacefully breaking up unfair laws and going to jail. I mean, one of his most famous books was The Letters from the Birmingham Jail. You can see here's Coretta Scott King with Martin Luther King. Here is another picture of him being arrested and detained by some police officers. MLK's advice. There are a bunch of things that he believed in. Number one, realize that the oppressed have power. You can't just simply allow the other races or the other people to hold the power over you. Number two, communicating discontent will not achieve change. You really have to ask yourself and ask the group, where is the oppressor most vulnerable? In the terms of Brown v. Board, it was schooling. Number four, find out what they care about and go after it. 5, refuse to cooperate with an evil system. Don't count on the vote, elected officials, or anything else, because at this point, everything was corrupt. Number 6, without organization and a long-range strategy, spontaneous energy easily dissipates. You can't just simply have one thing occur and then expect it to last for a long time. It has to be a long-lasting operation. Number 7, energize the youth, and they're more energized by direct actions. Number 8, gain public attention. A small number of activists may start the movement, but cannot carry it. Again, going on along the lines of the Freedom Riders and marches that are getting the public attention and showing the violence and showing the racism that is going on in our country. So, 1963, there's going to be the March on Washington. 250,000 people total, 75,000 of those people were white. So this is not just an African-American movement. A lot of white people believed in this as well. This is the I Have a Dream speech. There is the speech actually on E2SD. It is a much longer speech, and if you want to watch it, I highly recommend tuning in, checking that out. It really is inspiring, and every time I hear it, it makes chills go up and down my spine, so check that out. He objects to the Black Power movement. He does not agree with the Nation of Islam. He does not agree with Malcolm X. He does not believe in a violent form of resistance. He believes that violence will continually be met with violence and nothing will ever change. We'll just be in this constant cycle of attacking each other. All he believes is that violence will end in grief. In 1968, MLK will win the Nobel Peace Prize. He is also quoted as saying in one of his many famous quotes, "We will not hate you, but we cannot obey your unjust laws." You can see here a picture from the Lincoln Memorial all the way out to the Washington Monument, 250,000 people strong. Here's another image, just a little less poor quality, but you can see just the vast amount of people that are there. If you've seen Forrest Gump, you kind of get the idea of this as well. Here's another angle. This is looking at the Lincoln Memorial. MLK is standing right about in this area right here. Here's another picture. So, in his murder, in 1968, he kind of seemed, according to the people that were closest to him, that death was coming close. It was near. He's in Memphis, Tennessee, to address striking garbage workers, and he's quoted as saying, "I may not get there with you. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord." And it's very kind of eerie when you hear him say this. Dr. King is pretty ill at the time. He has a fever. He really didn't. The people that were closest to him didn't even want him to go and address these garbage workers, but he felt like it was his duty. It felt like it was he had to get out and talk to these people and show them that they had his support. April 4th, 1968, he is leaving his hotel room, and once he stands out on the balcony of the Lorraine Hotel, James Earl Ray shoots and kills him. This murder leads to the worst urban rioting in U.S. history. Over 100 cities. The hardest hit cities were those that were predominantly African American: Baltimore, Chicago, Kansas City, and Washington, D.C. You can see here's Dr. King moments after being shot, and you can see the people that were around him pointing towards where they thought the shooter was at. This is the guy that killed Martin Luther King. His name is James Earl Ray. It's kind of weird how they all have three names: Lee Harvey Oswald with JFK and James Earl Ray with Martin Luther King. Here's another picture of finally his capture. He flees to Canada, Toronto to be exact, gets a Canadian passport, and then ultimately, after about a month of laying low there, ends up being caught about a month later in London's Heathrow Airport when his Canadian passport got flagged, and he immediately was extradited back to Tennessee, where he entered a guilty plea, then recanted, then said, "No, I didn't do it. This was a conspiracy." Ultimately, he's convicted of Martin Luther King's murder and was sentenced to 99 years in prison. So, if you have any questions, let me know. Send me an email. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.